Hey there, coaches. I'm Rich Prado, owner of Play in School and host of Travel Ball Talk, where I talk to travel ball coaches from the best organizations about the current and future state of travel baseball. Today's call features Rich Leach, Director of Baseball for the Toronto Mets Baseball Club. It's incredible learning about how the Canadian players and coaches have to go the extra mile, literally and figuratively, to achieve their goal of playing college baseball here in America. I hope you enjoy this episode of Travel Ball Talk. All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. Today, we're on the phone with Coach Rich Leach from the Toronto Mets. But you're not sitting in Canada today, are you, Coach? You're sitting. Why don't you tell us where you're sitting?
I'm sitting in lovely Fort Myers, Florida, for the Perfect Game Underclass event going on this week. Home of our man Primetime, Deion Sanders, I believe.
Ha! That's a trip down the Wayback Machine right there. Primetime. Rich, I appreciate you.
Fairly good athlete.
Yeah, he was pretty good at sports in general.
Everything.
Like
yeah,
everything. Exactly. Well, Rich, I appreciate you coming on. This is gonna be fun. You're the second call to Canada that we've made. And by coincidence, both of these calls were done during Perfect Game events. We had your friend Sean Travers on several episodes ago.
Yes, know Sean well.
And that was in the middle of one of the summer events down there in Georgia. And so now you have your crew loaded up after quite a logistical nightmare. And why don't we start there? I think all coaches know that they make sacrifices and they work hard for their players. But you were in the midst of telling me a story, and I think this is a kind of a fun story to tell. Talk to us. Today's Thursday as we record this. Tell us from when you left your house Tuesday, where you've been and why you've had to make these multiple stops along the way.
Yeah, so it's kind of it's kind of goofy, making the trek down here. It's always logistics are always a difficult thing. So, we had a real problem with so many teams coming in. We had a real problem getting our rental vans. So, the only place we could get our rental vans was a place just outside of it was up in between Tampa and Orlando. It's called the Village. So Ryan McBride, who's our president, and I, we flew in on Tuesday night. Of course, there was only about 3 or 4 delays on the flight. So we ended up getting in to the Village around, I'd say probably 1:30 a.m. Up at 9 to pick up our rental vans in the Village. We then had to drive. We had to drive over to Orlando to pick. Of course, he had to do some family duty, so he had to pick something up for his wife over there. So we went to Orlando, and then we turned around, drove to Miami to pick our kids up because the kids flew into Miami. And once we picked the kids up in Miami, we turned around and drove over to Fort Myers. Now, the people of Miami were nice enough to have several accidents along the way, so that 2-hour trip took about 3 hours for us. So that was kind of fun. So, we'll be here for the week, and then we're for the weekend rather, and then on Monday we're gonna head up to Tampa. So we're hoping to maybe we could take the kids to a playoff game if we can, and then we'll be playing St. Pete's College on Tuesday. Flying out Tuesday night. I'm back in Toronto for probably 12 to 15 hours before I hop on a bus with our older kids, and we go on our annual college tour, which is a 12-day trip, and we'll go visit a bunch of college campuses. So my wife's very happy with me at the moment.
And we're going to talk about that trip because that's something unique that the Canadian or rather the international clubs can do. But let's. I just pulled up Google Maps and typed these destinations. You flew into Tampa. You had to get a car,
correct?
But the only car you could get was well northwest of Orlando. So you made the trek up to the Villages, from there to Orlando, from Orlando to Miami, and from Miami to Fort Myers. That's unbelievable. You covered the half the state.
I saw a lot of the state of Florida yesterday. I have to admit, it was. I made the round trip. When I say round, I mean all the way around. it was interesting for sure.
Yeah, you did a solid 12 hours in the car. Just
Yeah.
with the sole intent, with a major intent of picking up a van, which was a solid 5 hour drive away from where you needed to get the van to the kids, to pick up these kids who were all flying into Miami. Unbelievable.
One of my points for the Mets this upcoming winter is going to be to buy all of the other administrators maps. So they can figure out where to go and when to go, so I don't have to figure it out while I'm doing it. So I got that going for me.
Yeah, this is literally going the extra mile.
Miles, that's plural.
I just
plural.
Punched it in. It was 535 miles that you did from Tampa when you arrived to Fort Myers when you finally got to settle into the hotel. Yeah, that's fun. So let's back up a little ways, because when we were chatting the other day, I get to find out that you're actually a West Virginia guy by way of Canada. Can you give us a little bit of your background in baseball and in life a little bit?
Yeah, so I graduated high school in 1992, which makes me old. But I went to junior college my first 2 years. I played at a school called Lake Michigan College in Benton Harbor, Michigan. I left there. I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to a Division II school in West Virginia, Salem International University. So went there, finished my playing career there. Kind of got on as a GA there after I got done. Got on as the pitching coach. After that, my wife is from the local area where the school was, so that kind of worked out well for me. So, once I got done with I was a pitching coach for 3 or 4 years, and then our head guy, he left to take an NAIA job in Ohio. He kind of put the good word in for me. I was fortunate enough to get the head coaching job. I stayed there I was at Salem, I'd say probably 10 years total almost, coaching and, 2 playing. So spent a lot of time in the state of West Virginia. Still have a lot of contacts down there, which, that's a pretty big part of our college trip, which we'll get to. But yeah, no, it was great people, great state. I got a lot of time for that. It gave me a lot of great opportunities there. So I moved back to Canada, 2007, kind of try to recreate some of the stuff that I was able to do in college up back home with some younger kids for sure. So.
And then, before we jump into your history with the Mets, West Virginia is still very important to you. You have a boy who has followed in his dad's footsteps to go to college in West Virginia. Where'd he end up? Well,
it's kind of to say he followed in my footsteps is kind of a stretch, because he's actually a good player. So, he's a freshman at Marshall this year. I know dad coaches always get a bad rap, but I coached this kid for a long time, and he did okay. He was a Reds draft last year, and he decided to go to school. So he's doing well. I was down there last weekend. I got to watch Marshall WVU play, and one of the things I come back with to tell our parents is, a lot of the kids we deal with, their kids all think they're SEC guys, right? So, I encourage those guys to go watch a college baseball game and kind of see if you think your kid fits in there. It's always it's a big eye opener for a lot of these kids, right? So he's still down there, and we'll see him in a couple of weeks on the fall trip for sure.
You've touched on such a huge point. This idea of self-evaluation, man, it's so important throughout a person's entire life. You gotta look that guy in the mirror and figure out, is this right for me? Can I fit in there? Can I handle it? Can I play there? Can I get the grades? Can I get the grades there wherever it is? Can I contribute? And every kid wants to play in the SEC, sure, but it's not appropriate for every kid. And there's so many awesome opportunities beyond the SEC that you just hope that the kids and mom and dad are honest when they look in the mirror.
Yeah, that's a big thing for us. I mean, obviously being in Canada, we're a little insulated away from some of the stuff. So the problem we have when it comes to recruiting. So I do a lot of the college placement stuff for the program. people only know what they see on TV. So, they see pretty much the only college games you're going to get are late in the year, regional games, College World Series games. So they're not seeing Division II, Division III, NAIA, JUCO games. They're not getting that. You can't just go down the block and see one. So it's always kind of a struggle to help people understand where they best fit. And when we try to get these kids out when they're done with high school and hopefully get them into a situation where they can compete in college baseball, we try to really help them understand that we're always trying to find them the best fit for them, not, the best fit for what looks good on their Instagram feed.
Ooh. I'm seeing kids start up a Twitter page for the sole intent of posting up where they committed. Incredible. It's
you know what? College recruiting, as you know, it's gotten kind of crazy over the last couple of years, and they keep going younger and younger, and they've changed a few of those rules, recently to kind of temper a little bit of that. But I for me, with the Mets, with the program, I went through the process as a player way back when it was kind of, it's a little different, but I still went through it. I went through it as a coach from the college side, bringing kids in. I went through it as a coach from the travel ball side, trying to get kids into schools. And then most recently, as we talked about, I went through it as a parent last year. And I can tell you, it's an interesting perspective. And as far as my own personal experiences as a parent, it was great when it was done, and I'm glad I don't ever have to do that ever again. It's very stressful.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm actually very good friends with a guy whose kid was an elite talent. I mean, some of the biggest names in college baseball were after this kid, and I mean, he had some serious, first world problems, right? Picking between the best and the next best is a very fortunate place to be, but the dad side, is the biggest sigh of relief when they finish the process, and this guy, he's actually, you may know the guy actually. I won't say any more than that, but he just felt like it was such a heavy thing, and he, you're just glad when it's done. I think
glad when it's over. It's funny. I tell people a story all the time. We had a young man that came through our program. He was a 2017 grad, and he ended up being he was a second round pick. He was the first pick of the second round back in 2017. And his name was Leach. Probably the most talented arm. We will probably never have another pitcher of his caliber come through our program. I mean, he's 96 with an 88-mile-an-hour slider. Like I mean, there's a reason somebody gave him $1.8 million, right? So anyway, I had more conversations with his parents and him about choosing which schools. Like, it went on for months and months, and he had, pretty much every school you could think of was on him. And they're, we don't know what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I don't know what to do. So finally, I'm sitting there one night with the kid, and I said, Landon, what do you want to do? And he says to me, he says, Coach, I'm gonna play pro ball. I'm gonna sign. I said, just pick the one whose hats you like the best and call it a day.
Yeah.
He's like, okay. The next day he committed to Texas. But the funny story about him is, so his last name is Leach. My last name is Leach. We spell it differently. And the night he got drafted, I must have got 40 texts from dudes I played with in college. They're like, hey, man, congratulations, your boy got drafted. I'm like, no, it's not my son.
Yeah.
He's like, well, they're all like, well, he figured none of your kids could ever throw that hard. I'm like, thanks a lot, fellas. Appreciate the hospitality.
There's very, very few families who are put in that position. The rest of the real world has to, they got to put the time in, and hopefully they make the right decision so that 2 years later they don't end up on that transfer portal that everybody's talking about right now.
100%.
It's like, it seems easy. If you make the wrong choice, you just end up somewhere else. But man, it's a lot tougher to make those moves. You've settled in, you made friends, and now you're going to leave them. You got to go back. Now you're the new guy again. Oh man, here we go, starting all over again.
We had a young man go through that this past year. Went to a big name school. Everything was great, and then, you know what? Halfway through the summer, he ends up in the portal. Now he ended up finding himself a good spot, so he's off and running at his new place. He's good to go there. He's in another big D1 school, big Power 5 school, so things worked out for him. But I know, talking to his parents, they were pretty stressed out again, and it's like, we're back to this again. So they had to kind of redo the recruiting process, right, 1 year later. So that's a big thing for us. Is we probably when it comes to the college recruiting side, the majority of time that I spend and we spend as a program is trying to ensure these kids get to the right spot. So we want to make sure when you go there, you're going to go there, you're going to stay there, you're going to contribute there, and you're going to graduate there. So we know most of these guys aren't going to end up playing pro ball, but we want them to be good citizens, good students, and good people within the community, so they have a positive experience when they come back. We're very fortunate where our guys come back, and my favorite time, I always tell people my favorite time of year is December, because all of our college guys come back and they work with our younger guys, and they kind of show them the path and tell them what to do, what not to do. So we're very fortunate with that. But the thing is, like I said, the biggest thing for us is making sure we find these guys a place where they're going to stick and they're going to have an enjoyable experience.
Let's take a short break from this call to talk about my day job, video. In 2019, if you aren't leveraging film to market your guys, you are doing them a disservice. So where do I come in? Well, filming one guy on your iPhone and texting it to coaches or posting it to Twitter is easy. But filming 25, 50, 100, or 200 is really hard. And that's why you haven't done it already. That's why smart coaches partner with Play in School. We do all the work. We come to you. We can film 100 guys in the time it would take you to film just 4 or 5. If you'd like to see every team we partner with, visit playinschool.com/teams. Contact me today to discuss the details. Now, back to the call. Well, you actually blew me away the other day when we were chatting, and you mentioned a school that I'm very familiar with, but I wouldn't have thought that a Canadian would know much about Roanoke College. Academic D3, 30 minutes from Virginia Tech. It's very easy for kids to get tunnel vision into that Virginia Tech type of program and overlook Roanoke right down the street. And when you mentioned a kid that that you guys have heading over there, I said, hey, this is my kind of guy.
Yeah. We got a kid down there. I tell you what, Coach McGuire does a great job down there, and we got a young man named Jacob Bonson that's down there. Now, keeping in mind, he broke one of my cardinal rules, so he was a 34 ACT kid. So I generally have a rule: nobody's smarter than the coach. But he blew me away on that one. So, but he was again with a lot of our guys. We always tell them, if you buy into what we're doing, good things will happen. And him and his parents, super people, great people. They bought in early, and they said, listen, you just let us know what you think are good spots. And it materialized with Roanoke, and Coach McGuire was great. And, the kid's little brother still plays in our program. So I see them every day, and they have nothing but good things to say. And it's been a wholly positive experience for them so far.
Well, Matt McGuire's actually one of my really good buds. He was 2 years behind me at William and Mary, and I think the guy's one of the best coaches in the country. And he went over to Roanoke to a program that kids in the state didn't even really recognize, and a few years later, he ended up in the College World Series. Out of the 6th spot in the conference. That ODAC conference that they play in is, some people call it the SEC of Division III baseball. He ends up in the World Series out of the 6th place in the conference. Yeah, and listen, if the worst thing in the world that happens to a kid, and I hope a lot of parents are listening to this, if the worst thing that ever happens to your kid is he goes to an high academic D3, he's going to be all right. Good things are going to happen. Anybody who thinks that going to a Johns Hopkins or a Haverford or a Washington Lee or a Roanoke or a Randolph Macon, if they think that's a bad thing, then man, that's a tough place to be, because many kids.
We've been pretty successful with sending a lot of kids to Division III schools, and generally with our guys, I mean, we have some pretty high academic kids, and that's the right fit for them. So I mean, we've sent guys to Oswego State. We've sent guys to school in Indiana. Can't remember the name of it right now. Anyway, we got CJ. He's a shortstop for us. We got a kid at Johns Hopkins who's a 35 ACT. But with a lot of these guys, our D3 guys, I usually give them a resume before they leave. So when they remember me when they become powerful CEOs, a lot of these big companies. The one kid is at Johns Hopkins. I said, hey, I've always wanted to work for NASA. Maybe you can hook me up when you get a job over there, for sure.
I'm telling you, man. Listen, this baseball thing comes to an end for everybody eventually, and most of the folks who are going to go to the power D1 programs maybe just don't recognize that their career is almost over, but it is. And for those D3 guys, it's almost over for them too. And not that folks aren't getting great jobs out of the state school that's a big D1 program. They are. But there's just this density of high academics within these East Coast, kind of the Mid-Atlantic to New England Division III programs, that just the academic opportunities are just off the charts. And if swinging the bat helps you get into to one of those programs, good for you. Good for you. All right, so we chatted about your literally going the extra mile to get your guys down to Florida. You're at the underclass perfect game, one of the biggest events of the fall. Will you also be heading to Jupiter in a couple weeks here or next week?
I won't be heading to Jupiter, so we'll be on our. We have a big call. I guess we talk about our college trip that we take.
Yep, that's what I was going to talk about next.
I'll be on the bus. So generally, what happens with the Jupiter trip is we do have kids that will participate in Jupiter. So those guys usually get picked up by scout teams. So we've got a few guys going with the Blue Jays scout team. We've got a few guys going with the Diamondback scout team. So generally, they'll come in and kind of cherry pick the guys they want.
Yeah.
So we think for us, it's a little more beneficial for our super high end guys to go to that.
Yeah.
Because they'll get the looks they need. Rather than kind of dragging our whole program down there. So the guys that need to go to Jupiter for us go to Jupiter.
Got it.
But for our other guys, it's more beneficial for them to head out on a college trip.
All right. Sure. So you're doing your college trip, and what? Tell me how many guys you take, and what age groups are you taking on your college trip?
So generally, it'll be mostly our 2020s and 2021. So we'll take probably, I think we got 35 guys going.
Okay, so basically a full charter bus plus staff.
Full charter bus. Now they're going to have to watch. The unfortunate thing for these kids is they're going to have to watch a lot of my '80s action movies.
Yeah, good.
Obviously, because I control the DVD player, so they'll get well acquainted with Commando and Predator on the way. But we got a full crew. That bus gets pretty ripe after about 5 or 6 days for sure.
Let's back up 1 second. This is just in case anybody didn't hear the episode with Sean Travers from the Ontario Blue Jays, which, by the way, since our call, he's left, and everybody is on the edge of the seat, waiting to see what his next stop is going to be, because I'm sure it's going to be something pretty fantastic, because Sean's a big time baseball guy. But in case
great player development guy.
In case somebody's listening who's unfamiliar with the trips that you do, that the Blue Jays do, and there's a couple other Canadian organizations who do similar trips. Basically, the short version is you come over and you're going to do workouts and games against a ton of colleges. But the key is you guys are international. And so when you're coming over and playing a Division I program, that's not hurting anybody's eligibility, and it's not screwing up the college's schedule. So it's a unique opportunity that you guys get because you're right across the border, technically in Canada. Although we would welcome you with open arms, you guys are still Canadian and you count as international. And so if you come down and you play somebody, that's an international competition, which is pretty darn cool. So in a couple weeks here, you guys are going to load up the charter bus. You're going to grab all your 80s action movies, and you're going to leave Toronto. Where's your first stop?
Yeah, good question. So, we like to call Canada America Light, in case you're curious.
Okay.
We're close enough, but yeah, we're gonna head out. Our first stop's gonna be Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. So we're gonna play them. We're gonna leave Shippensburg. We're gonna go down. We're gonna play Garrett Community College in Maryland. From there, we'll go to Frostburg State. We'll play them. Then we're gonna swing on over to my alma mater, Salem International. We're gonna do a little workout down there. We go down, play Ohio Valley, which is in Parkersburg, West Virginia. We're going to swing back through. We're going to work out at Glenville State College. Then we'll play West Virginia Tech. We'll play Charleston University. And we'll swing over and we'll go see Junior over at Marshall. Then we'll go from Marshall. We'll go to Rio Grande University, which is University of Rio Grande, which is in Ohio. We'll swing up. We'll play Northern Kentucky. And then we'll finish it up with my other alma mater, Lake Michigan College. And then we will be on the road home. It's a full trip.
Yeah, so
a lot of baseball.
What was that last one?
Lake Michigan College.
So you hit that. That I just punched all these guys in. You guys do a big old horseshoe from Toronto, Lake Michigan College. This thing looks like a tremendous trip. So from Lake Michigan back to Toronto, you drive right through Detroit.
Right through Detroit,
right
7.5 hours.
That's outstanding. So it's a if you can visualize in your head, I'll describe you basically leaving Toronto, and the first day is a travel day, a full day's drive on a charter bus. The kids are having fun at this point. Movies are going. They're tweeting their girlfriends or whatever, Snapchatting. You get to Shippensburg, and you pull the spikes out. You get the baseballs going, and you tee it up against Shippensburg. And
we're off and running.
And you're off and running. And you guys are playing every single day the rest of the trip?
Every day.
Every day.
We're playing. We'll play every day. Some days, it kind of depends on how the schedule works out. So, I mean, the coaches are great. They're very flexible. So, depending on how our arms go, we could be low on arms one day. So we may play a single 9 rather than play a double or play 14 straight or whatever. We kind of make that up as we go. But we also have the two workout days, which we do there. So, we've been doing this now. I'd say probably going on 5 or 6 years. We've expanded a little bit. And really our goal is just to kind of get these kids out there in front of people, and have as many coaches see these guys as we can. So a lot of times I'll get calls all summer long. Hey, you got to come down. Matt McGuire wanted us to come down this year, but it's a little out of our range this year. So
yeah, well, from Charleston to Roanoke, it's not a few hours. Tell him to get his butt in the car.
That's what he told me. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get him up there for sure. So, yeah, I mean, for us, from a recruiting standpoint, most of our guys, most of the guys we have, and this is not everybody, but most of them will fit kind of in that, that Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York corridor. That's where, a lot of our guys will end up, just based on a lot of things. We feel we're kind of overall our talent level is probably comparable with, Michigan high school players, New York high school players. So we deal with a lot of the same struggles they do with weather and whatnot. Now, I'm not saying we don't have guys that will, we've had guys in California, we've had guys go to Texas, we've had guys go to Florida, but those guys, like a lot of those guys are special. So we always want to make sure we kind of get into those areas. That's a big reason why in our summer tournaments we spend a lot of time in Cincinnati and Indianapolis, just to we find that, I don't know why Indianapolis is 7 hours from everywhere. So everybody goes there. So we get down to Grand Park quite a bit, and we kind of get those guys as much looks as we can.
You gotta go fishing you gotta fish in the right ponds. And
that's right.
That's so funny. I see a lot of organizations who seem to schedule kind of incorrectly. I know the deal. It's a lot of times it's the moms and dads who are forcing the hand. You'll see certain teams who have no business going to certain events, but they do. And you know what? If mom and dad are going to force you, it's like, you hate to see it. You hate to see mom and dad dictate what the what the coaches, and the business. At the end of the day, it is a business. So it's kind of weird 100%. That mom and dad are dictating the how that business is run in some circumstances. How many days does this trip take y'all?
We're leaving on the 10th, and we're returning home on the 20th, I believe. So
that's a good trip.
We also. Yeah, it's a pretty good trip, and as we talked about, America Light, our Canadian Thanksgiving break actually falls during the trip, so they won't be missing. They're gonna get an extra day off there, so it's one less day of school missed for these guys for sure. So that's a big factor for us.
So you're able to do a 10-day trip, time it so that they only miss 1 day of school?
They're missed 1 day less of school because that that October 7th is a holiday. So.
Oh, okay.
So overall, they're gonna miss 4 days of school on this trip.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Yeah, the schedule works for us that way. We're pretty fortunate that we can kind of do that.
And I'm assuming they're bringing their books, they're bringing their homework, they're bringing tablets or computers with them, and finishing the work. It's not like they're gone for a month, so it's not like they got to do correspondence courses. But what's that look and feel like as you're traveling? Are these guys opening up their textbooks while you're covering some miles, or?
100%. So one thing we want to stress to these guys. One of the big focuses of our program is we want to prepare our guys to condition them to understand what it's going to be like in college. So we all know if you play college baseball, there's going to be days where you're on the road, you're traveling, you're gone, where you're going to have some level of understanding that you're going to have to get your schoolwork done in a non-traditional setting. So these guys, they will go to their teachers, they will get their work, they'll get their assignments. We'll send correspondence from the program to the teachers to let them know what's happening. So we'll have study halls each day at the hotels. We'll book rooms for the kids to go in and do their work, and they will have dedicated work time for them to do their schoolwork. So we want them to understand that when you get to the next level, whatever level that may be for you, they're going to have to learn how to do this stuff on their own.
Yeah.
So the more they can do it now, the better off they're going to be down the road. And for me, the biggest compliment I ever get from our players when they come home is like, "Coach, it was exactly like you said it was going to be." Or we're doing this. We did that last year. I'm way ahead of the other guys. So we want to make sure they're keeping up on their studies for sure.
That's it. People, you don't understand how hard being a student athlete is until you're a student athlete. And if you can figure out ways to replicate the experience by something like this, it's going to put you in advantage. Because the first time a lot of kids, that first road trip might be the first time that a kid's ever had to go away during school, right?
100%.
Listen, it's one thing to miss a Friday during the fall and you're heading away for a long weekend. It's very different to miss an entire week of school. And when you're doing midweek games, and then most programs in college right now for a weekend series, they're leaving Thursdays. They're leaving Thursdays. So you're missing a ton of school. And if the first time you ever experience that is during your freshman year of college, which most are, that's gonna be one more thing to try to figure out on the fly.
Yeah, you're gonna be in trouble for sure.
A kid who has done this with you guys, they go in their first road trip, they're like, oh, okay, we've been there, done that. We get it.
We've already done it. And to be honest with you, that stuff is just as or more important than the baseball side of things, because we all know that if you're not eligible, you're no good to anybody. So, for me, I always joke with the kids that the only reason I ended up getting my degree, like I went away to school to play baseball, and then they said, oh, this is what you got to, this is the GPA you need to stay eligible. And then I woke up 4 years later with a degree going like, what happened there? That wasn't school. Oh, okay. I'll take it. But for a lot of our guys, like the three pillars for our program that we really push hard on the kids is, number one, it should be in this order. The most important things in your life should be, number one, your family, number two, your school, number three, your baseball. And it should be in that order. So now that being said, you've got to learn time management. So it always, one thing as a coach that kind of drives me nuts and that I kind of get on the kids about is when, if a kid comes to me and says, Coach, I won't be at practice tomorrow. I got a big project due on Thursday. Well, my usual response to them is, well, I know that project didn't get assigned today.
Yeah.
I know you've had that for a month.
Yeah.
And we were off on Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
So what'd you do then?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of those challenges we kind of got to get through with those guys. But, after a while of me barking at them, they usually figure it out pretty quick. And, they can screw it up with me. That's fine, as long as they're good with it when they get to college, and they take care of business when they get there. That's the only thing that really matters to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no doubt, because in that example, school is above baseball in your three pillars, except that, hey, buddy, you just wasted the last 30 days, and you've had a bunch of time to do it.
Yeah, and it's we've had so many kids come through our program and move on to bigger and better things, and unfortunately for some of them, they don't really understand the importance of academics until it's too late. So we've had tons of guys with big time Division I talent that just they couldn't get there academically. So they had to, they might have to go the junior college route, or they might have to sign a pro contract when they're not ready to do that. And we've had a few guys do that. But what we stress to them is, when you take care of that academic stuff, it opens so many more doors for you from a educational standpoint, from a school standpoint, from a baseball standpoint. So if they can take care of that stuff, then they're going to be in good shape moving forward for sure.
That's just it. You said that they might have to go to a JUCO instead of whatever else. Not that there's anything wrong with JUCO. Listen, you went there, but you don't want to limit your choices. JUCO might be the appropriate choice for you and your family, even if you have a 4.0 GPA. But you don't want to have to get backed into a junior college because you don't have the grades. And because
sorry, cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I'm a huge proponent of junior college baseball. I lived it. It was the best thing for me at that time. And there's kids that should go to junior colleges and do go to junior colleges for all different. It could be a financial thing. It could be maybe they need a little extra development. Maybe they want to go there to get a better opportunity coming out after 2 years. But like you said, the biggest thing is, as long as that's a choice, that's fine. If that's your only choice based on something that you did or didn't do in your high school years, then that's where the issues come in.
100%. See, down here, you may have heard one of the issues we have going on is this thing called the $1.6 trillion in college debt, and I've been standing up on the soapbox trying to warn parents, hey, this whole college debt thing is for real, and one of the ways around strapping $100,000 or $200,000 of debt to a 20-year-old or 21-year-old kid is to think about going to JUCO for your first 2 years.
100%.
This is, we talk a lot about our, my good friend Matt McGuire. Listen, the one knockdown there is it's expensive, no matter how nice it is, if you can't afford it, I feel scared for the family that embarks upon that experience, and with the intent of waking up, down the road and trying to figure out how to pay for it. Because listen,
it can be, the debt can be really overwhelming too,
listen, right? Lamborghinis are really nice too, but I can't afford one, and so I drive a Subaru because I can, and I feel this is not. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too deep, but I've seen it with my own eyes. I see it a lot, and I'm sure you have too, where families get excited and they end up in that Lamborghini when they can't afford the payments, and unfortunately they don't come due for a few years in this college thing, and you end up at a place you can't afford just to go play a few games of baseball. That can really hurt a kid, when they come out into the real world. It can really hurt a kid, big time. Here's a question that's related that I'm honestly in the dark about. I'd like to do a little bit of research. When your guys are coming stateside to play college baseball, what's the deal? Yep. Are they being treated? Are they out of state for every state in the country, or is there an international rate that gets tacked on top of that? Because there is no in-state tuition when you're coming over here to play baseball. What's
good question, and it really depends on the school. Pretty much every school is different.
Okay.
So some schools have an international rate. Some of the private schools, the tuition's the tuition. It's like that for everybody.
Sure.
Some of them, they might get classes out of state, or they might get classes out of country. So it really depends on finding that fine line. So there are a bunch of schools now that are giving Canadian kids, in-state tuition, or there's some of the schools in Michigan are giving that they consider Canadian kids in-state because they're a bordering country.
Yeah.
Way back when there used to be a few schools. So Mercyhurst up in Erie, PA, they used to actually take Canadian money at par. So, I think it's about 70 cents on the dollar now. So that was a pretty good deal back then because I had a few of my buddies play hockey up there. That was good back in the early 90s.
That's another level to the
really
discussion. The exchange rate. The exchange rate, something I hadn't even really considered beyond just this international concept. But
big.
Yeah. What are we exchanging at right now?
I think it's about 70 cents on the dollar.
Okay.
So,
boy.
Yeah, it can it's an extra, it's an extra fee. You're looking at it 30. So you're looking at probably 30% whatever your final cost is. It's a 30% increase on that based on the U.S. dollar. So that's a big challenge. And that's where for us, that's where we really encourage the parents to sit down with our administrators and really help them understand what their options are, because a lot of people really don't, and they're kind of flying blind. And that's kind of my job, and it's our job as a program to kind of walk them through the landmines. Because, to be honest with you, I've had to walk a lot of the college coaches through, especially if they've never had a Canadian recruit on campus.
Absolutely.
They don't know either. So they're bouncing stuff off admissions and financial aid, and they're trying to figure out, okay, what do I got to do for this? What do I got to do for this? So that's a real challenge as well. So there's, it's funny, the recruiting cycle in the U.S. is way different than it is for Canadian kids. So Canadian kids are going to be a lot later in the process.
Mm-hmm.
So I think over the past 8 years, I think we've sent 112 kids away on scholarships. And of those 112, 102 of them were done after October of their senior year. So the other 10 that were early commits were either national team players, so very high profile guys for us in Canada, or they ended up being draft picks. So they were high profile guys going out.
When you mentioned the players that were coming on your bus tour and you said 2020s, that actually kind of surprised me a little bit, but now that totally makes sense. Yep. But once sort of after this fall season comes to an end, they'll start kind of getting checked off the board here pretty routinely, I would imagine.
We're pretty thorough with most of our guys. So last year, we had an 18-man roster. One kid decided, which unfortunately was our best. He was our best arm. He decided, listen, I don't want to go away to play baseball at school. I just want to go to school in Canada and have a good time, hang out with my buddies. No problem. Go ahead. The other 17 out of 17 ended up finding spots, and the majority of those guys were done late. So for me, really the busiest time for us as a program is going to be, from the time we get back to, from our college trip to the time to, probably December 1st. So it's going to be a lot of legwork done to make sure we get these guys locked up and get them the spots they need for sure.
Very cool. As you go along your college trip, you got a bunch of stops. Are you calling around to your contacts and saying, hey, we're going to be in Charleston tomorrow, come on up and see us? Or do you find
really no different than if we're going to a tournament. So there's this perception in Canada, like our program is a little different than most of our community programs. So the guys you could best compare us to are guys like the Ontario Blue Jays, the Great Lake Canadians, who run a fantastic program. I have nothing but respect for those guys. Fieldhouse Pirates. So we've been pretty fortunate. We've had a lot of really high-end players and good kids that we think profile as really good college players. So some of the other programs, they think, well, we'll go to the same tournaments and our guys will get scholarships. Well, the difference is when we go to these tournaments, for a month leading up to that tournament, I'm on the phone talk to my guys going, okay, this kid's throwing, at 3:00 on Friday at such and such varsity field. And then this guy's throwing and this. So I'm really kind of coordinating, trying to get the right guys out to see the right kids in the right setting. Because I think people think that college coaches just plop a lawn chair down and just wait for guys to walk by. I mean, they're in and out. Yeah. So same thing with this college trip. We're going to get into those areas where we think our kids kind of profile best as college athletes. So we want them to come out and see them. And, we're going to come into your backyard. So, hey, I'll be here we're going to be playing here at noon on, October 16th. Why don't you get down? I got an outfielder I need you to come see. I think he's a good fit for you. So we'll spend a lot of time doing that leading up to that trip to make sure we get the guys the looks they need for sure.
That's a funny thing. A lot of organizations, you'll see them tweeting out that they're at some event and there's a laundry list of coaches there. And I'm like, it's not about how many coaches saw you play. It's about the right coach saw the player play. It's it doesn't matter if there's 100 coaches there. If there are 100 programs you can't play at. So yeah, you
agreed.
You gotta be fishing in the right pond. I think I said that earlier today. Very cool. So let's kind of transition a little bit, talk a little higher level. You got a little different perspective about this travel ball thing. I always ask people kind of the same question. What's right now, what do you see as the good, bad, and the ugly from travel baseball? I mean, again, I love travel baseball, or else I wouldn't run a podcast called Travel Ball Talk. But what are the things you see where maybe there's some opportunity for improvement? What are some of the things you're loving right now? And maybe if there's anything else in between that makes you scratch your head, so Talk about both sides of the coin.
I think for me, I mean, the biggest thing people need to understand, the way we run our program, and whether it's the Toronto Mets, whether it's the Ontario Blue Jays, Great Lake Canadians, or the guys out west, whether it's the Langley Blaze or the Okotoks Dogs, the real high-end travel programs in Canada, people need to understand that high school baseball is essentially non-existent in Canada. And it's a very low level of competition. And they might play, your average high school team might play 5 games.
Oh, boy.
So there essentially is no high school program for most of the kids. So really what we're trying to do and what we run is we run it's a 12-month program essentially. So the way we do things, the way I like it, the way we do it is we want to try to simulate a college season as much as we can. So we're going to come in, we're going to have our fall ball, we're going to have our post-fall meetings, then we're going to have our strength conditioning period, and then we're going to get into our winter training. We'll do all our winter training, which will lead up to our season, which starts in May. And then May and June, which is a big time for us. So remember, our kids are in school till the end of June.
Okay.
So our regular season for our league, so we play in a league called the CPBL. It's the top competitive league in Ontario. So we'll run 4-game weekend sets every weekend from May until the end of June. Kind of simulate that college season. And then once the kids are out of school, which is at the end of June, our tournament season starts. We're probably on the road 3 out of 4 weekends in July. So the biggest difference is, we don't, a lot of these other teams that we come across, like they don't start, like their kids meet up after the high school season's over, the U.S. teams. So they're not really a program as much as they are a team, right? We're a program. So we have things that we run from top to bottom in our program. The stuff that our 18U guys are doing, our 15U guys are doing. We train everything. The thing I like that we've kind of done, which kind of lends to a synergistic approach, is that we do position-specific training. So, all of our catchers train together, all of our infielders train together, all of our outfielders train together. So what we've done is we kind of eliminated, we had an issue a couple of years ago when we used to practice by team. There was a little bit of a division between the people, and I may be telling a kid the same thing that one of the other coaches is telling them, but the wording's different. So a lot of times kids have a hard time distinguishing that. So they interpret it as different instruction, when it's really the same thing. So we kind of brought it all together to help with our developmental model, which I think is we've seen some real strides in that the past 3 years since we started doing this. But I think that for us, and most of the programs in Canada, like I said, they're going to be 11, 12-month-a-year programs. Now, of course, the hockey people don't seem to like that because, it's Canada, right? So, and guys just make fun of me when I want to go to school because I can't skate. So,
I really,
everyone in Canada.
I liked this idea when you first said it about practicing with your positions. I was like, doesn't everybody already do that? But then when you made the distinction that you used to come in as your team, I go, wait, isn't that what everybody does? So
yeah,
right. So you're, instead of doing the full team coming in, on Saturday at 1:00, instead you're saying all infielders come in Saturday at 1:00, and that's all the infielders from 15, 16, and 17 and 18 coming together, so that everybody's on the same page. I like that, and I'm wondering. I think some other people are doing that, kind of, but the fact that you recognized that you had these 6 or 7 different teams, and it was 6 or 7 different types of language and instruction, and those things might mean the same. Now what you've been able to do is you've crossed all 7 of those teams with the same wording for the shortstops, so they're all on the same page.
Yep.
I like that. I think that's pretty smart, and I wonder if anybody listening will have a little aha moment and go, oh, that's pretty good. That's a good idea.
Yeah, we've been we've been pretty fortunate with, we've got some great positional coaches. So we have a position coordinator for every position. So, Andy Stewart, who he had some time in the big leagues with the Royals. He's our catching coordinator. So he designs our catching program. Frank Morey, who's our infield coordinator, he designs our infield program. Pete Angelo, he's our outfield guy. He designs the outfield program. So he works with all the kids. They work with all the kids all winter long. And then when the teams go to their individual practices, once we get outside, they will develop the programs for them to use on the outside that will best suit the skills of the kids they got. Now, the big thing for us also is, we've been really fortunate to have some really talented kids come down the pike over the last few years. So, when you're a 14-year-old kid and you're working with the 18U catcher who's a Division I commit, who is a national team guy who got drafted. I mean, I can tell a kid to do something 1,000 times, but I think the peer coaching can be a lot stronger because, the coach is telling me to do this, but when the guys you respect and the guys you look up to tell you, this is what you need to do, they listen. And we've had some real successes with that over the past few years. And we're excited moving forward. So we've got a few other things going on. I mean, with our hitting, we're going to partner with Blast Motion. So every kid in our program is going to have a blast sensor, and we're going to integrate that with the Rapsodo machines. So we'll be using the hitting Rapsodos and the Blast Motion to kind of get the kids' swings to where we think they need to be. And because as baseball's going metric based, so that'll give us those metrics that we'll be able to use to help the kids get better, which is obviously why we do this.
Like I wasn't fortunate enough or young enough to have all these bells and whistles that the kids have access to today, but just on a really simplistic kind of train of thought, you say, hey kid, swing the bat, and then you can look at you can look at what the results of that swing were. Okay, swing the bat again. And if the metrics are better, you did something better that time. Let's do that again.
That's right.
If the metrics were worse, you say, the first swing was better. Let's do that again. And honestly, I know folks like to get really complicated with their teachings, and I've heard some of the people, you almost need a PhD to break down what some of these guys are in the hashtag hitting Twitter world are using. I'm just going, guys, it's, they can feel it and they can see it. They can see the result right there on their tablet. And if the metrics are getting better, just keep doing that. If it's getting worse, don't do that anymore. It's not that complicated. But to be able to see the real time metrics of each and every swing is pretty powerful stuff. I'm anxious to start hearing. I know there's a lot of programs who are going to be implementing similar programs with the Blast Motion and other tools this winter. So it'd be kind of nice to get some feedback once the spring gets here to see to see the fruits of the labor, so to speak.
We ran it. We ran a Blast program we kind of did a pilot program with one of our teams a couple of years ago. So before we rolled it out to the whole group, we kind of wanted to see, okay, let's get every kid on this team a sensor and let's see how it plays out for them. And you know what? It greatly benefited those kids. So it was to be honest with you, it was a pretty easy decision for us to, okay, let's roll this out for everybody. And me as a coach, I like it because I have access to the account, so I can see who's swinging the bat and who's not. And I always tell kids, like I said, we've had some really good players come through. There's really there's no magic pill. The guys that are in the facility every day hitting, the guys that I got to kick out of there, and the guys that are bugging me to throw one more round of BP, those are the guys that are successful.
What a coincidence,
so
right?
Take those guys. Yeah, it's not an accident, right?
Yeah.
So if we can help those guys even more, then I think their success level is going to be high. But then I can track who's swinging and who's not. So when a parent or kid comes to me and says, "Coach, how can I get better?" Well, I can tell you right now, you're not working hard enough.
Yeah. You literally have 50% of the swings of the kid next to you, and you know how I know that because we're tracking it.
I got the data.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome stuff right there. Well, listen, I'm looking at the clock and I see we're running short on time. I got to go ahead to pick up my little dude here in a little bit. I know you've got a game to prep for. Do you know who you're playing, or are you just going to show and go?
We're going to play. We're playing a team called the Under Armour Prospects 17U. I don't know much about them. We're throwing. We got a kid throwing today. His name's Turner Spaljaric. His dad pitched in the big leagues for about 8 years with the Blue Jays, the Mariners, the Phillies. So
okay.
High-end guy. So we'll see what young Turner's got to offer against them, and we'll see if we can't deal out a win. You know, if you win, it's because of the coaching. If you lose, it's because the players screwed up. That's what I tell people.
Yeah, that's what they say. These kids are the ex-pros are usually okay. So I'm assuming he's going to be all right on the bump today.
Yeah, he's got pretty good bloodlines. I think he'll be fine. But he's a good kid, and we're fortunate. We got a bunch of great kids, and I love working with these guys, and they're super excited to be here. So I'm excited to see what they do. Some of these kids, I don't know if they've ever been away from home before, so we'll see how they act tonight.
We've talked about a bunch of things you're doing in the near future. Beyond these things, beyond implementing the Rapsodo and Blast technology for the guys this winter, besides your upcoming fall trip. I mean, before you even do your fall trip, you got your tournament here in Fort Myers. That's a big deal. Besides these things you have coming down the pipe here, what else are you focused on? Is there anything that you're focused on near term and or long term?
Yeah, I think it's an ever evolving thing for us. So one of the biggest things for us on the year, not from a playing standpoint, but from a coaching standpoint, is the college trip. So we spend a lot of time on the college trip talking to the college coaches. We want to know what they're doing. So we want to kind of mimic whatever they're doing, whatever they're working on. We want to mimic that back home because we think that, again, will help our guys be more prepared when they step foot on campus. And if we're doing something that they're not doing, we want to know, why? We want to ask why. Why are we doing that and nobody else is? What have we identified? It could be a bad idea, so maybe we need to change the way we do things.
Yeah.
And then the biggest thing for us from a coaching development standpoint, we're always looking forward to the ABCA in January. So we'll be sending a large contingent down there again. It's a little bit of it's a carrot for our coaches. I mean, we'll send all our coordinators down and we'll kind of split them off and make sure they go to the right. They'll go visit their disciplines and kind of bring back, and we'll roll it out into our training, in June when we start up again in January. So, and then just getting ready, for me, just a lot of calls to colleges trying to get these kids locked up. So I've been one of the benefits today to having, we got a number of coaches with us here this weekend. So it was great. We had 3 guys throwing BP. I didn't have to do it this morning. So I was just texting coaches because everyone wants to know who's pitching, when they're pitching, and where they're pitching. So spent a lot of time doing that. So.
Absolutely. That's nice. You didn't have to get on the bump.
Yeah, it was about 95. I didn't mind.
Incredible. Well, this has been fun, man. I want you to hang on for 1 second. We'll end the call here. If people I really need to start saying this at the beginning of the call. Maybe I'll do it in the intro. But if you're still listening, this call is going to end up over at playinschool.com/Leach. That's LEITCH. And I'll make sure I'll put all the links over there. It's torontomets.ca. And I'll make sure Rich's Twitter page is linked up over there too. But man, this has been a lot of fun. You're gonna have a good time in Fort Myers, but I know you're gonna have a blast on your college trip. I appreciate you coming on the call. Hang on for 1 second for me. Do you have any parting shots for our listeners at home?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me. I know you had Sean Travers on before, and Sean's a great baseball guy, real solid development guy, and they got a lot of respect for the Ontario Blue Jays program. So they're kind of, they're our that's a big game for us every year. We play in the same league, so it's exciting to be, recognized with those guys. And, anybody, follow me on Twitter, and if you guys got any good drills you can send me, I'll be more than happy to pass them off as my own. So,
Nice.
But I really appreciate having me on the podcast, and love to do it again sometime for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I have a feeling we need to start doing some follow-up calls with past guests to see what they've been up to. So, all right, we'll end the call there. Hang on 1 second for me. I'm having so much fun bringing these shows to you each week. If you'd like to recommend a coach for the show, please don't hesitate to shoot me a note at rich@playinschool.com or DM me on Twitter @playinschool. Again, my name is Rich Prado. I'm the founder of Play in School. My goal is to continue to create products and services that add value to you, the travel ball coaches, your players, and their parents. Visit playinschool.com to see some of the ways we're doing that. Or better yet, let's set up a call. Until next time, thank you for listening to Travel Ball Talk.